My name is Hannah, and I'm 32 years old. I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel, hands shaking. I'd just transferred my entire savings to my sister. "It's for Mum," she'd said. "It's a deposit." But why did everyone go quiet when I asked about the dates? Why wouldn't Emma look me in the eye? My gut told me something was wrong. But even I didn't guess that I'd just paid $5,000 to be their unpaid nanny. Look at this character. Do they remind you of a two-faced daughter-in-law at all? We've worked hard our whole lives, not to end up being conned out of our pension. So keep a firm grip on your purse, and let's see what lesson this one gets. It was a normal Tuesday morning when my mobile rang. Sophie's name lit up the screen. I answered with one hand while I shuffled papers with the other. I was half in a set of quarterly figures and half in whatever Sophie wanted. "Hiya, Han." Her voice came through bright and bouncy, like she'd never had a stressful thought in her life. Sophie was 26, my baby sister, and she'd always been the bubbly one. The one who turned up late with a grin and somehow still got forgiven. "All right," I said, trying not to sound distracted. "Got a minute, what's up?" "So," she said, drawing it out. "You know Mum's turning 60 in 2 months, yeah?" "I do," I said, because Mum had mentioned it roughly 30 times. "Well, we're planning something special," Sophie went on, "and we need everyone to chip in." That pulled me out of my spreadsheets. "Right," I said. "How much are we talking?" When she told me the amount, I genuinely nearly choked on my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last holiday, which, if I was honest, had been 3 years ago. Work always came first. Or family did. Or some emergency did. There was always a reason. "I know it's a lot," Sophie rushed on, hearing the silence on my end. "But it's for Mum. You know, it's her 60th. It's the deposit for the lodge and we're short." No, I said, forcing my voice steady. "It's fine." And because I'm me, I didn't even pause to ask anything else. I opened my bank app and made the transfer there, and then £4,800 gone in seconds. "Done," I said. "Oh, thank you," Sophie breathed, like I'd just rescued her from a burning building. "Honestly, thank you. Right, one more thing. Make sure you take a week off work for the celebration. Don't plan anything else for that time, okay?" "A week?" I repeated. "Yeah," she said, breezy as anything. "Just get it booked. Promise me." I stared at my calendar. My annual leave was precious, and I hardly ever used it for myself. But it was Mum. Mum's 60. "All right," I said. "I'll sort it." "Love you," Sophie sang, and she was gone. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings and deadlines. I'd occasionally wonder what they were doing with all that money, but whenever I asked, I got vague answers and a quick subject change. "It's sorted, Hannah. Don't worry. You'll see." Work swallowed the rest. Mum's birthday crept closer, and I pushed it to the back of my mind, in the way you do with anything you're not allowed to think about too hard. Then Saturday came. Family dinner at Mum and Dad's, the usual. The sort of gathering that's meant to feel comforting, but somehow always leaves you tense before you've even got your coat off. The table was packed. Mum and Dad, Emma and Sophie, Auntie Sue, my cousins Callum and Becky. Callum's twins were there, racing up and down the hallway like tiny hurricanes. Becky's little boy was perched on a chair, swinging his legs. Emma's toddler was clingy and tired. Sophie's baby was drooling happily on her shoulder. The familiar chaos wrapped round me the moment I stepped inside. Dad told the same jokes he always tells. Mum fussed over everyone's plates, insisting nobody had eaten enough even though we'd barely started. It was loud, warm, hectic. And then, halfway through dinner, Sophie put down her fork and cleared her throat, like she was about to make a speech at a wedding. "So," she said, pushing peas around with the kind of casualness that was anything but, "we've finally got everything arranged for Mum's birthday." Everyone leaned in. "We're all going to spend a week at Cairnpines Lodge in Aviemore." The table erupted. Excited chatter, laughter, Mum's face lighting up like she'd been handed a crown. Dad immediately started talking about snow and slopes and whether his knees would cope. Emma was already asking which rooms were whose, who was bringing what time they'd leave. I sat there blinking. "Aviemore," I said. "We're going to Scotland." Sophie smiled at me as if I was slow. "Yeah, isn't it amazing?" Why didn't anyone tell me earlier? I asked, suddenly feeling like I'd arrived late to my own life. I don't even have ski gear. There's barely time to get anything. The noise dropped. Not completely, but enough that I felt it in my chest. Mum cleared her throat, and my stomach tightened before she even spoke, because I knew that tone. The gentle, careful one. The one she used when she was about to ask for something she'd already decided I'd give. Actually, love, Mum said, smiling in that way that isn't really a smile. We were hoping you could do us all a huge favor. I stared at her. We were hoping, she continued, you could have the kids for the week while we're away. For a second, I genuinely thought I'd misheard. Like my brain had swapped words around to make them make sense. Sorry, I said. You're so good with them, Mum said quickly, as if that was the only point that mattered. And they adore you. My gaze went around the table. Emma wouldn't look at me. Sophie had that fixed, expectant expression. Auntie Sue's face was politely blank. Callum stared into his drink. Becky picked at her food, like she was trying to disappear. You want me to watch the kids? I said slowly. All 5 of them, here. My brain counted without me meaning it to. Emma's toddler, Alfie. Sophie's baby, Lucy. Callum's twins, Tom and Anna. Becky's little boy, Ben. 5 children under 7. Mum nodded brightly. Just for the week, while we're up there. It'll be lovely for you. You'll have the children. You'll keep busy. I want to go too, I said, and even to me my voice sounded odd, like it belonged to someone else. It's your birthday. Emma finally put down her fork with a sigh, like I was being a nuisance. Oh, Hannah, she said, you wouldn't even enjoy it. It's going to be noisy and crowded, and you don't ski. I could still come, I said. Well, Emma said, glancing at Sophie. You know what you're like, and you're great with the kids. They love you. Sophie jumped in before I could speak. Her tone suddenly sharp and knowing. Emma just means you don't have children or a husband to get away from, she said, like she was stating a basic fact about the weather. The rest of us need this break, you understand, right? I felt something in my chest tighten. Not pain exactly, more like a lid snapping shut. I blinked hard. The food on my plate blurred for a moment. I wouldn't cry. I refused to cry in front of them. I wouldn't give them that. So I pushed back my chair and stood up. Hannah, Mum said, with just enough concern to look decent, and not enough to actually stop me. Nobody moved. Nobody said, hang on. Nobody laughed. I picked up my bag from the side, walked out through the kitchen, and let myself out the front door, as if I was a guest leaving early. Behind me, as I reached my car, Mum's voice drifted after me from the dining room. Don't worry, she said to someone, like I wasn't even there. She'll be a bit offended at first, but she'll come round. She always does. I sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. 10 years, a decade of being sensible, reliable, the one who sorted things, the one who didn't make a fuss. And this was what it came to. It wasn't even the babysitting request, not really. It was the way they'd assumed it, planned it, booked it, used my money, told me to take time off work, and slotted me into the role they'd already chosen without asking a single question. Like I wasn't a person. Like I was a spare part. That night I barely slept. I paced my flat, going over memory after memory in my head. And the more I replayed them, the more they changed shape. Things I'd once seen as helping out suddenly looked like a pattern. 16. Cooking dinner while Mum sat with Emma doing homework. 18. Cancelling a trip with mates because Mum and Dad wanted a weekend away and Sophie needed watching. 21. Working 2 jobs at uni to help out with family bits and pieces because someone always needed something and I always said yes. It kept going year after year. Hannah, can you have Alfie for a few hours? I'm shattered. Hannah, could you take the twins for the weekend? Becky's at her limit. Hannah, can you just nip over? I've got an appointment. I'd always said yes. Even when I had an early meeting. Even when I was exhausted. Even when I'd had plans. I'd worn it like a badge. The reliable one. The good daughter. The sensible sister. And suddenly it all felt grim. By morning, I'd made a decision. I'm not confrontational. I never have been. My instinct is always to fix things, smooth things over, make everyone feel comfortable. So I tried to fix it. I waited until a reasonable hour on Sunday, then called Mum. She answered on the third ring. "Hiya, Mum." "Morning," she said. I kept my voice steady. "I've been thinking about the week. I've got a solution." She hummed, like she was already braced for the inconvenience of my feelings. "I'll pay for a professional babysitter," I said. "For all 5. Properly vetted, with references, the lot. They can stay with the kids here, and you can go away without worrying. And I can still come up for the birthday meal, even if it's just for a night." The silence on the line was too long. "That won't work," Mum said finally, her voice tight. "Why not?" I asked, even though I could guess. "We're not leaving the children with some stranger," she snapped. "They're used to you." "Mum," I said, keeping my tone even, "I want to be part of it. I want to celebrate with you. I can find someone brilliant, someone qualified." "You're not exactly a social butterfly," Mum cut in, sharp as scissors. "You'll be uncomfortable with all the fuss anyway. The children will keep you busy, and you enjoy spending time with them. It's perfect." Before I could reply, the call ended. Just like that. No goodbye, no pause, just the click of being dismissed. I sat on my sofa with the phone still in my hand, staring at the screen like it had personally offended me. A minute later, it buzzed again. "Sophie," I answered, and she didn't even let me speak. "How dare you?" she hissed. "Mum just told me about your little babysitter idea. Are you trying to ruin everything?" "Ruin everything?" I said, sitting up straight. "I'm trying to find something that works for everyone." "We already have something that works," Sophie snapped. "Everything's planned, Hannah, everything. And now you're being selfish, trying to change it at the last minute." The word hit like a slap. "I'm being selfish." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's excited. The lodge is booked, the activities are sorted, and now you want to throw a spanner in it because you can't just do this one thing for the family." My hand was shaking. "One thing," I repeated softly. "You're calling a full week of childcare for 5 kids one thing." "If you spoil Mum's birthday," Sophie said, voice rising, "don't bother speaking to me again, I mean it." The line went dead. Then the messages started. Emma. WhatsApp messages popping up one after another. "Family needs to stick together. We all help each other. Remember when I watered your plants last year when you were away? You're good with the kids, they love you. Why are you being resentful?" I stared at the screen, my jaw tight, and something in me shifted. I typed back, thumbs flying. "A real family doesn't take advantage of each other. A real family asks instead of deciding. A real family doesn't guilt you into saying yes." I watched the typing dots appear, disappear, appear again. No reply. And that's when it all clicked. The money request with no explanation beyond Mum's 60. The instruction to book annual leave without telling me why. The casual announcement at dinner, as if it had all been agreed. The silence when I looked around for someone to laugh and admit it was a joke. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan. They'd built the whole thing around me doing what I always do. Giving, sorting, stepping in. And the moment I didn't, they'd gone straight to threats and guilt. Something strange happens when you finally see it. It's like fog lifting. The guilt doesn't get heavier. It gets lighter. It starts to drain out of you, and what's left is something clean and sharp. Determination. I opened my laptop. Within an hour, I'd booked myself a beachfront hotel in Tenerife. Nothing ridiculous, but nice. A balcony. A proper view. Somewhere I could walk straight onto the beach without needing anyone's permission. I even treated myself to an upgrade on the flight, because why not? I'd apparently got plenty of money and time, seeing as I wouldn't be spending my annual leave wiping noses and cutting up chicken nuggets. At work, the next few days felt oddly peaceful. No family calls, no little emergencies, no quick favor. I imagined them, assuming I was at home, preparing for a week of childcare, buying snacks, packing coloring books, planning little activities. The thought almost made me laugh. On Friday, I packed a small suitcase, beach clothes, a new swimsuit I'd bought on a whim. I didn't overthink it. I didn't check with anyone. I didn't ask permission. A colleague spotted me printing my boarding pass. "Tenerife?" she said, eyebrows up. "Bit random. Sometimes you need to do something unexpected, I said. and I surprised myself with how good it felt to say it out loud. The morning of my flight, I looked around my flat before I left. Cleaned, as always. Windows locked. Everything neat. A habit I'd never questioned. A life always arranged in case someone needed me to drop everything. This time I wasn't going to be here. I switched my phone off as the plane took off. Properly off. Not silent. Not do not disturb. Off. No WhatsApp, no emails, no family drama. Just me. Tenerife hit me like a warm hand on the shoulder the moment I stepped outside. Salt in the air. Sun on my skin. Palm trees swaying like they didn't have a care in the world. My hotel room was even better than the photos. The balcony looked out over the sea, endless and blue. I could hear the waves at night. That first afternoon, I walked barefoot along the sand, letting it run through my toes. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something purely because I wanted to. I swam. I read a book without being interrupted. I ate dinner at a quiet little place by the beach where nobody needed me to wipe their face or stop them climbing on a chair. I watched the sunset from my balcony and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Space. On my last morning, I sat out there with a coffee and let the peace sink in, because I knew I'd have to turn my phone back on eventually. I'd have to go home. I'd have to face whatever mess I'd left behind. I just hadn't expected what I found. When I finally powered my phone up, it didn't just buzz. It went mad. Messages, missed calls, voicemails, more than I could count. My stomach flipped as I scrolled. The timestamp started exactly a week ago. Early morning. The day they were meant to leave before dawn. Bags packed and rushing for the train. The first ones were from Sophie. "Where are you?" "We're outside your place." Then Emma. "Hannah, open the door. Alfie's getting restless." Callum. "Hi, Hannah. We've brought Tom and Anna like planned. Are you home?" Becky. "What's going on? Ben's asking where you are." I sat on the edge of my hotel bed, reading, and I could picture it perfectly. My sisters and cousins outside my building with suitcases and 5 confused children, ready to hand them over like parcels, ready to head off to Aviemore, ready to celebrate, assuming I'd be there, waiting. The messages shifted quickly from confusion to panic. "This isn't funny." "Pick up." "What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear." Then anger. "Sophie, you've got a nerve." Emma. "I can't believe you're being this immature." Auntie Sue, who usually kept things polite. "You've ruined everything. Those children were counting on you." Mum's messages started later that day. "I'm so disappointed in you, Hannah. I never thought you'd be so selfish." Dad, who hardly ever texted, sent one message. "Your mother's in bits." There were voicemails too. I didn't listen to all of them at once. I couldn't. But the ones I did hear were full of accusation and outrage, like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. The worst part wasn't even what they said. It was how quickly they said it. How quickly they turned. "You've always been reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor children." As if I owed them. As if my role in the family was fixed and permanent, and I'd broken some sacred rule by stepping out of it. I sat there in a room full of sunshine, listening to the sea outside, and realized I'd just met the real version of my family. Not the one with the smiles at dinner and the friendly requests. The one underneath. The one that only liked me when I was useful. I didn't reply. Not a single message. I packed my things, checked out, and flew home. When I opened the door to my flat that evening, it was quiet. Exactly as I'd left it. I'd barely got my suitcase inside when I heard the aggressive pounding on the front door. Then another. Not a knock. A demand. Someone must have seen me come in, because it happened too quickly to be a coincidence. Before I could even reach it, I heard a key turning in the lock. My spare key, the one I'd given Mum years ago, just in case. The door swung open and they came in like a storm. Mum first, face tight with fury. Emma and Sophie behind her, red-eyed and wound up. They looked like people who'd spent a week stewing. Like they'd only just got back from Scotland and come straight over. Sophie pointed at me as if she'd been holding it in all week. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she shouted. I stood still, hands by my sides, heart thumping hard but steady. "You ruined everything," Sophie went on. "Everything." Emma jumped in, voice sharp. "Rob refused to stay with the kids. Dan did too. Both of them suddenly had work. Mum made a noise like she was personally wounded by the word. So Sophie had to stay behind with all 5 children, Emma said, glaring at me, while the rest of us went up to Aviemore. And she missed my birthday, Mum added, voice rising. My 60th, because of you. They talked over each other, faster and louder, a mess of blame and outrage. They filled my living room with it, the same room where I'd sat on the floor coloring with their kids, the same room I'd rushed back to after work, because someone needed me. The more they spoke, the more absurd it sounded, like they genuinely believed I was the villain for not turning up to the job they'd assigned me without asking. Something inside me cracked, and to their horror, I laughed. Not a polite little chuckle, a proper laugh that burst out of me before I could stop it. The kind you make when something is so ridiculous, your brain doesn't know what else to do. They froze. Mum's face darkened. What exactly is funny? I wiped at my eyes, because the laughter had brought tears with it. Do you hear yourselves? I said, voice steady now. Honestly, do you hear what you're saying? Emma spluttered. What's wrong with what we're saying? You planned the whole thing, I said, the laughter fading, but the clarity staying. You took my money. You told me to book a week off work. You didn't even tell me where you were going until it was too late, and then you announced it at dinner like it was already decided, that I'd be the one staying behind with 5 children while everyone else celebrated. Sophie opened her mouth. I didn't let her. And now, because it fell apart, I continued, because you assumed and you planned, and you never once asked me, you've come here acting like I've done something horrible to you, as if I owe you childcare just because you decided I do. Mum's voice dropped, smaller but still sharp. But you've always helped. Yes, I said. And that's the problem, because I always helped. You stopped seeing me as your daughter and your sister. You started seeing me as the solution. Free childcare, someone to pay, someone to rearrange their life so yours is easier. That's not true, Sophie snapped, but the words didn't land. Even she didn't sound convinced. Really, I said. Then why didn't you ask me? Why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't anyone say, Hannah, do you want to come to Aviemore for Mum's 60th? Why was it just decided that I'd stay here with the kids? I watched their faces. For a second, I thought I might see it. Recognition. Even a flicker of shame, but it hardened instead. Mum's eyes turned cold. You're selfish, she said. You've ruined my birthday. You've hurt your sisters. You've disappointed everyone. The last thread of hope snapped clean. No, I said quietly. You've done this to yourselves. This whole situation is the result of you assuming I'd fall in line, like I always do. I didn't ruin anything. I just didn't fix it for you. Mum drew herself up like she was about to deliver a verdict. If that's how you feel, she said, voice shaking with anger, perhaps I don't have a daughter named Hannah anymore. My heart thudded once, hard, like it was testing whether I'd flinch. I didn't. If that's what you want, Mum, I said, then so be it. It's been 6 weeks since that day. 6 weeks of silence, broken only by the occasional notification when one of them posts something thinly veiled online. Some people only think about themselves, Mum wrote, with a wave of supportive comments underneath from relatives who only ever hear her version. Family should always come first, Sophie posted, alongside a photo of Lucy and a caption about being blessed. Emma wrote a long paragraph about toxic people who destroy family bonds with selfishness. She didn't mention my name, but she didn't have to. Everyone knew. A few months ago, those posts would have crushed me. I would have sat awake at night rehearsing replies I'd never send. I would have wondered if they were right, if I'd overreacted, if I should apologize just to make it stop. Now I scroll past them. Sometimes I even smile at how predictable it is. My weekends have changed. I'm not on standby anymore, waiting for a call that starts with, I'm so sorry but, and ends with my plans cancelled. I joined a local book club. The first meeting felt strange. Sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, realizing I didn't need to keep checking my phone. Last week, I booked another trip for spring, a short break in Europe. I saw a good deal. I clicked. I booked it. No permission, no bargaining, no guilt. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about the kids. I miss them. Not in a dramatic way, but in that small ache you get when you remember the feel of a toddler's hand in yours, or the way the twins used to fight over who got to sit next to me. But I don't miss being used. I don't miss them being turned into weapons. I still have the spare key Mum used that day. I should probably post it back, but every time I pick it up, I hesitate. Maybe it's habit. Maybe it's a tiny stubborn part of me that still hopes they'll one day understand, that they'll look back and realize how unfair it was, how they took my love and turned it into a job. But I'm not waiting for that day anymore. I'm not putting my life on hold for people who only see my worth in what I can do for them. Yesterday, I deleted the family WhatsApp group. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain myself. I just removed myself from one more obligation, one more source of stress. Some people would call that selfish. My family certainly does, but I've learned there's a difference between being selfish and having self-respect. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is step away from people who can't see you as anything more than their convenient solution.